Hello, welcome to Snowdrops Sunsets. My name's Terry. I'm laughing because I'm having major technical issues, and considering I was a photographer for 10 years, it's laughable. Fingers crossed this video works and uploads and is decent enough quality you can watch it, and yeah, fingers crossed. Thank you for joining me. This video today is going to be discussing why natural healing is kind of the only kind of healing that exists, and why choosing natural and holistic healing methods was the best choice for me, and just a kind of an overview of the concept of that. I'll start with talking about the traditional route, if you like. I have been involved with the doctors through the NHS service, and I have had experience with the services that are offered, the process, if you like, that you go through when dealing with the NHS for mental health problems, and in my case trauma-caused mental health problems, and actually what I think is the cause of all mental health problems is unprocessed trauma. When I came back from London and moved back to the northeast, which was around 2010, I managed to find my own space. I had my own little house, and really had to take some time to devote to the healing process. Prior to that, while I was in London, I had contacted the doctors because I had started struggling with my mental health and some of the symptoms that I was, trying to cope with and manage in my life. And I don't want to talk too deeply about that because it wasn't particularly a pleasant experience. But basically, I have tried lots of different medications, and that was ultimately what was offered to me, a short span of counselling and medications. And for me, I'll talk a little bit more about what I call drug therapy or medical therapy in a little while, in a little more detail. But for my experience, I found the side effects were really difficult to deal with. I understand that when you're stuck in a trauma cycle, or when you're really, really struggling with symptoms, trying to get back into this baseline, trying to get back into, kind of normal rhythm of life is really important. But what I found actually was quite extreme responses to the medication I was given. So for example, one of the medications literally just numbed out everything. So for about a week or 2 weeks, a month maybe, that was quite nice. When I've been really down, to numb was great. But it just meant that I couldn't, in the end, after taking them for a while, I couldn't feel anything, couldn't feel any joy, any happiness, not even any physical responses, touch, pleasure, everything like that. It was like as if it was just, feel nothing and then kind of let everything sort itself out. That didn't work. So, and there was another medication that was really, manic. I can't even remember a lot of things that happened in that, but I know it was very reliant on steady usage, and what I was going through at the time, I wasn't able to get it, and I had some really horrid episodes with that. But basically, long story short, I had an auntie at the time who was really into nutrition, and she was very much an advocate for you are what you eat, and if you look after your body through what you put into your body, it will respond better in a healing process. She had managed to overcome cancer the first time she got it through this process, and it just really, really resonated with us when I was moving back, when I made a big change. I wanted to focus on my healing, and I'd had these negative experiences with medication. I really wanted to try something different, but it wasn't offered to me. And as I said, I've kind of dipped in and out of NHS services in the past at points where I have struggled, and yeah, it didn't work for me. It didn't work what was offered, and in a way it kind of helped me because it ultimately pushed me down this route of holistic healing using natural methods, which what I intuitively knew was best for me. And yeah, it kind of just forced me to be able to look at my health in a much more holistic way. And what I've kind of come to understand through doing it is actually that all healing that we go through is natural healing at its core. Our bodies are systems that can self-regulate. They're systems that can heal. For example, if you cut your finger, you cut your hand, whatever it is, and it's bleeding, we all just accept that if you keep that environment clean, give it a good condition for it to heal, it will just heal itself. It'll be a process that it goes through, but we all accept the fact that we don't really do anything, that the cut heals, that our body will heal that damage. But actually, ultimately, that's all healing is. Especially when you go through trauma, if you're stuck in a trauma cycle, we're in a state of destruction, if you like. Our body may be panicking. It's trying, like I said in the previous video that I'll have to remake. Our body might be in a panic response, so it can't actually be fully processing and flowing with its normal state. And when you're in a high stress response, when you are being in panic, when you are in fear, when you are in victim mode, allowing this trauma to basically control and the panic response to keep going, you can't actually heal. Healing comes from a space of feeling safe and from an environment that is healthy and that is nurturing. And we have to believe that in the process, we have to believe that our bodies, our minds, our spirits, that we know what's best for us, and it will intuitively want to heal. So for me, a lot of that was already in my instinct, that I would have preferred a more natural approach, and that's what steered me down this path. For example, if you look at the placebo effect, doctors know this, the medical profession know that for a good percentage, and I'm not the best at statistics, but I believe it's about 25%. So 1 in 4 patients, if you make them believe that a sugar pill is something that's going to help them heal, and they take it and they believe in that process, even though the pill's doing nothing, they will heal themselves because they trust in the process. So for me, that's quite an insightful and quite a complex phenomenon that the medical profession is quite aware of, and I don't know to what degree they use it as a practice. I'm not a doctor, I've not been medically trained, and I don't know, but for me that says a lot about healing and also a lot about diagnosis. So just on the other end of the coin, if you really believe something is going to be helpful and you give it the time and the space to help you, it will. And the opposite, therefore, to me seems true, that if you don't believe in something's going to help you, or in fact if you think something's going to harm you, and then you follow that process, it is kind of going to, or could potentially just cause harm just because you think it's going to. So for me, the first step in any sort of healing has to come from this space of removing yourself from harm. And particularly when we relate that to trauma, especially because trauma can put you in a victim mode, a victim mentality, where you kind of just allow it to keep happening and process. The first step is to choose to make a move towards a more stable and a more nurturing and a more healing environment. So the reason as well, part of the reason for this is one, because you're allowing your system to regulate itself. But secondly, it's taking you out of that spiral. I did a metaphor yesterday about going over a waterfall and getting caught in the cycle of the force of the fall and not being able to get back out. Now, if you're able to remove yourself, if you can find the strength and the direction to move yourself out of this cycle process, you're then in a different space where you can rest, recuperate, and at least start to respond to your body. And from my experiences, what I found was that the medications that I had, the drug therapies, even the very, very small amounts of counselling sessions that I had, sometimes I think I had one lot of sessions, it was like 5 sessions or 6 sessions or something. You can't it's not going to heal you. It's not going to help you in the long term. I suppose what I see the thought process as, or they're trying to recreate this baseline, take you out of the cycle. But actually, that's not the healing process. The baseline is just getting you back out of the panic mode. The healing process has to go alongside it. I'm not going to, encourage anyone to go against their free will. If you want medical advice, go and get medical advice. Like, go and speak to your doctor or whatever. I just have a different view, and this is my personal view. All taking medication ever did for me was repress what I was feeling and put it off. It just kind of delayed the response, really. It didn't ever do anything to help. And like I say, there was points where it did lift me back to baseline for a while, but as soon as I came off it, bang, it was like straight back again, re-triggered again, and it didn't actually help me. And I mean, while I was going through that process, and what I wanted every time I did reach to the NHS or go for medical treatment, drug therapies, that sort of thing, what I was looking for was a quick fix. I was feeling the fear of my feelings. It was as though I knew I had a really difficult challenge to overcome emotionally. I didn't know how, and that caused a lot of stress, and I just wanted a way out. I just wanted, that quick fix. I'll just take something and I'll make all my problems go away. But that's not the truth of healing. That's not the reality of actually being able to overcome our problems, to be able to pull through situations, to be able to change our circumstances that contributed to the original trauma or the original illness, whatever it is. To heal, you have to be prepared to invest your time and energy. You need to take yourself out of the environment that caused the harm and not put yourself back in it. My auntie, who I mentioned earlier, who managed to overcome her cancer for the first time she got it through diet and through her nutrition. What happened is, after she had gone through that process, she literally just flipped right back and just lived our same life again. It was as if the cancer had never happened, and the process of all the healing work that she'd done, all the lifestyle changes that she'd been through to get her to a point of healing, she just let go of, and then tried to go back in time, and lo and behold, she ended up with cancer again several years later. And this time, obviously, then having re-traumatized herself, she didn't make it through and she died ultimately of cancer. There's a lot more to that story, obviously, like there is with anyone's story, and especially something as complex as cancer. But the point I'm trying to make is, because she went through a process that helped her to heal, but then put herself back into exactly the same cycle that caused the original illness. So for me, the healing process, it's an ongoing process. And when you're trying to create a baseline, what I found is actually using practices, building skills and incorporating different practices into my life, it actually changed my lifestyle, and took me on a different direction. And then therefore I wasn't going back to re-traumatize myself in this, at least in the same way as the original trauma. This is not kind of blaming anyone for their circumstances, but ultimately, when trauma happens to us and when we're unconscious of how we're living or the choices we make and why we're making them, them circumstances are what's caused the trauma. As I said in the previous video, to me, trauma, it's like it's a situation that's attracted to you to try and wake you up, mind, body, spirit, to make changes, because your system is perceiving some level of destruction anyway. So they're trying to speed up that recovery process by creating a trauma. So you respond, change, and create a new strategy, try something new. And effectively, that's what I think all healing is. It's being able to recognize the patterns, the behaviors, all the things that can contribute to the place of trauma, being able to make the changes that we need not to replicate those patterns again in our life. And that takes different levels of awareness, like I was discussing in one of my other videos: mind, body, spirit awareness, awareness of yourself in a situation, others in a situation, and how your relationships are. Being able to see all the dynamics within our lives that contribute to these patterns and cycles that we end up getting caught in. So for me, when I made that choice to stop taking any medications and to move into a more natural healing modality, I literally moved and changed my physical environment. So obviously that had a ripple effect, which meant I wasn't around the same people, I wasn't going to the same places, I wasn't working in the same way. It did kind of force a big physical change. Obviously I'm aware that that's not always possible, but it is going to be a big part of the healing process, is to put yourself in a safe environment that's not re-traumatizing you. Obviously, particularly if in my case I would have been living and working in the same environment where the traumas happened. So I was being triggered literally just by looking around the room or trying to, do work. So that physical shift into a safe environment allowed the space to be able to communicate with myself, follow my instincts, and start my own path of healing. When I talk about healing environment as well, that is internal as well as external. So the physical change of moving was an external environment, but actually I also started to take away trauma from my internal environment. So for me, this was very much about looking at my food, and it was small, steady changes that I made, but ultimately it was a shift in consciousness, and it was an awareness that even small amounts of poisons, toxins, are causing a reaction in our body. And when you're in a mode of trauma, where we've been through significant trauma, even those tiny little additional traumas weigh on you, and they stop your body from being able to tap in to its own natural healing resource. So because the internal environment can potentially be constantly, in little small ways, being re-traumatized, we're not in an equilibrium enough to be able to really rest and start to tune into the trauma and go through the process of healing from it. For me, that was starting to open my mind to organic foods, fruit and vegetables, making things fresh and putting my conscious attention into the food. Initially, when budget was an issue, even just taking like proper vitamins and getting all your nutrition is a start. A lot of our brain health, I think, is and the issues with our brain health is through lack of nutrition. And if you're not eating, a diet that suits you, it's going to have an impact, because our brains take a lot of energy and a lot of nutrition. And if the nutrition in your body is not on point, you can't really expect yourself to be able to perform in a high, in an effective healing manner. So some of the vitamins, especially, like say for example, something with depression, vitamin D and magnesium would be essential. So vitamin D is it naturally lifts our mood and helps our aches, and we generally get it through fruit and vegetables. In the UK, because we don't have much sun, it comes from the sun, so lots of fruits and things like that have vitamin D in. But if you can't be getting that through your diet, or you can't be getting it from outside, if you take a vitamin D supplement, and magnesium actually helps you to absorb the vitamin D, even taking them two together helped me a lot, just to be able to lift my mood, to be able to do some of my other practices that were improving my environment more and more, to help me back into this baseline flow of life, to heal. For me, it was I needed to be fluid. I had to have a fluid approach to the healing, because I felt very trapped and very fixed in the symptoms. So in order to be able to, I knew that what I was doing was not working. My previous strategies had failed miserably, I was not doing a good job of keeping myself well. So if I hadn't been doing a good job, I had to try something different. I think I really like the quote by Einstein that insanity is doing the same thing again and again and again and expecting different results. And that is part of the giving in to the healing process, I think, and opening your mind to a new way of being and following your instincts and tuning into that, is really just honouring the fact that you don't know everything, and potentially your body's wisdom might not have a better idea than you. And rather than control everything, be a little bit more open and a little bit more fluid, and just start to follow the intuition towards healing. I'd set the intention, I want to get well, I want to heal, and then I would get inspiration and ideas, and I would follow that, and then pay attention. Did it help? Did it not? Something else that was worth noting as well is that, like I said before, initially I was looking for a quick fix, something just to take the pain away, or just get out of this really difficult mode. And yes, that is something that we want, but actually sometimes the quick fixes come from spaces and places we don't expect, because actually, even if you just feel better for an hour or 2 hours, at least it's a lift, at least it's a feeling better. And part of the acceptance of where we are is to really feel and appreciate that we are in pain, that we are suffering, and that it's going to take time and attention and nurture and practice to get out of the habits that have caused that pain and that suffering. Yeah, so for me, I suppose that's what I'm trying to explain best in the video, most in this video, is that it really is a process, and it's a natural one that needs to happen, but it can't happen whilst we're in an environment that is keeping us locked into a panic, or in fear, or in victim mode, or in I am unwell. By taking action, by moving through life, by choosing to believe that you can get better, it changes and stirs something in us that allows that to be possible. And that ultimately is what all healing is. No matter what therapy you're choosing, all that therapy is doing is trying to create a safe environment for you to be able to do the process of dealing with your trauma, which I explained in a previous video, which is on different levels of mind, body and spirit. For me, with the food and plant healing and things, just being able to put my consciousness into that made a really big impact, and it gave me a sense of control. I've heard people with eating disorders who speak about that they can't, because they feel so out of control, that's where the eating disorder comes from. Because actually, you know, especially with situations like we're living in now with the coronavirus situation, this is a global trauma that's happened to us all en masse, but it's affecting us each individually. And the only control we have at the minute in amongst all of this is what we consume. We can control what we put in our bodies, the environments we put ourselves in, the people we're around, the things we're watching, what are we listening to. All of this is what we're consuming and what is creating our reality. It's what is creating our personal individual system. And whether the trauma, you know, was something that was that involved a physical injury, whether it was maybe something more that has a deeper mental or emotional injury, whatever it is, it needs the same modality of healing, which is a safe environment, a commitment, an investment in the process of healing, and a belief that you can heal, that you can get better. Thank you for watching this video. I really hope this one works and uploads, and I hope you've enjoyed it. I'm going to try and share more content with a little bit more detail, and anything you might be interested in. If something has been mentioned that you'd like to know more, please do let me know and leave comments. Thank you. Take care. Hope you're keeping well, and I'll see you on the next video.